Okay, I got a good one here to finish up on. I want to kind of take it a little into the more like philosophy avenue after. I'll let you answer it the up front first, but then I'm going to kind of direct it into a deeper conversation after that because I think it's important. So I got three. There's three questions here. This is from Michael, and so I got three comments I'm going to read to you so you get the gist. So he said, random question about a player just leaving the WHL with decent numbers, not getting any interest other than Canadian universities.
Mhm.
Any advice on going pro? That's number one. Two, do you think U Sports, so that's Canadian University League, closes the door to pro? Many undrafted free agents go to the East Coast League, and how would Europe be ranked compared, or how would Europe be ranked getting back to North America, going to play pro there? Last question. Any recommendations as far as U Sports goes? Sounds like University of New Brunswick is kicking tires and all that. So three, kind of talking about life after the CHL
Yep.
options.
Yep.
So I'll let you just go thoughts on that, and then I'll direct you a little more if you need it after that.
Yeah, so a lot of times we're watching kids leaving the OHL to go to CIS, and they're pretty good players. So everybody thinks that they're a pro, right? This goes down to understanding your game. People really don't know what they are. As I look, there's a lot of guys that are gone because they had a lot of grit, not a lot of skill.
Yep.
And then there's a lot of guys that have a lot of skill, not a lot of grit. So there's something missing. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's always that bucket of vanilla. Everyone's trying to be the same guy. Listen, if you go to the Guelph Storm training camp, you're going to see a dime a dozen of the same guy. But then you're going to see the guys that make the team have just something. They're either a lot better at something or they have another element to your game. You'll be surprised what guys sign in different places because, and we say it all the time, where does this guy come from? He's not that good. He's good at something. Patrick Maroon for the Tampa Bay. Well, it's not a coincidence that he's been on 4 Stanley Cup finals in the last 4 years, right? 3 Stanley Cups in 4 years. There's something. He's not the best skater. He's not in the best shape. Something about him that plays his game. He brings something that other people don't bring. So the reason that people don't get the pro shot, there's a reason. It's a glaring reason because there's 32 teams that get a chance to make an opinion of you. And if you don't stand out to 32 teams, you did something wrong. It's like in the OHL, or if you didn't get a scholarship, all these teams are actually looking. And if you go 15 rounds in the OHL and not one team took you, it's not them. They might make a mistake and you might be a late bloomer or something, but at that time, it's not them, it's you. So you have to figure it out. That's just the honest to goodness truth.
Yep.
Are there mistakes made? Once in a while, not very often. Everybody knows. So taking that a little further, I was saying Europe? Is that what the question was?
He was just saying like thoughts on avenues to go pro. So Europe versus North America. If I go to Europe first, can I get back to North America if I want to play through the coast or if I want to do whatever? So
okay, so same shit, different pile. Like for this player, obviously he's a good hockey player. He's playing in the WHL. He's going to move on. What you have to look at before you decide what. Well, it doesn't matter what league you're in. You got to figure out what the thing is that held you back. Right. So ask yourself. Look at some video. Are you playing like everybody else? That's all I have to say. Are you defensively sound because you had good numbers? Okay, so that's good. If you have good numbers and come to the major junior leagues, that's good, right? That's a good sign. So there's a deficiency, 100%. Are you physical? I don't know. I've never seen you play, but ask yourself the question. Are you good in your own zone? Like truly good in your own zone? Do you work your ass off in your own zone? Is it body language? Are you 5'3"? Are you 6'9" and you don't hit anyone? Like those are the questions. So there's a deficiency, 100%, that you're not good enough or you're good enough, but you don't have something. Is it the second effort? Is it the battle? Is it all those things? I can't tell you because I don't see you play, but without ever seeing you play a game, if you went through the 3-4 years of the Canadian Major Junior and you were not drafted or you're not belong to a team, there's a deficiency in your game, and you're not an asshole. Just something that you have to recognize. If you truly want to be a pro, something needs to change. So maybe you go over humbly with a coach, with someone that can actually be honest with you and tell you exactly what it is you need to fix. And if you fix it, whether you play in Switzerland, Africa, North America, East Coast League, Southern Professional League, whatever, you'll be a better hockey player and people will notice it. They're always looking for a good player. That's the bottom line.
So then sorry, I was
No, that's
gonna
good.
say just let's go. I want to go one more layer
Yeah.
on that to finish off here. So going the U Sports route and trying to go play pro and stuff after that, what would you say to people that like him or like some of the other guys we know that are now playing U Sports and want to go play pro and whatever? What are your thoughts about we're trying to make a career as a hockey player taking this route now? So I want to know what you think about, and just in terms of life, what you think about trying to chase that pro avenue, going that route, and just your thoughts on it. I think that's a good discussion that I haven't really heard people have before.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I am not in anybody's head, so I have zero. I can never tell any player at any level when they should give up their dream. Okay, that's not fair. That's only you have to do that, right? You know what's inside the tank, all that, right? And if you want to play U Sports and become a pro, then you actually need to be the best player in U Sports by far. Or bring something that opens up eyes. So if you're not doing that, then it's not going to happen anyways. So it depends on what you call pro.
Right.
Do you call the NHL pro, or do you call the East Coast or the SPHL pro? Like, it depends. And if you want to make $1,000 a week, you consider that pro. That's cool. That's good. I have no judgment on that. It's all good. So, but anyways, from a hockey perspective, if you want to do that, you have to be the best player, and you have to fix things. You have to have a desire, and you have to dedicate yourself. And NHL teams or pro teams are always looking for good players, so that's not out of the question. The other side of it is, a lot of the kids, and I think this is what you're asking, a lot of the kids don't know when to end it. Right? We'll talk to people that talk about their days playing pro, and it's like, well, you played pro, but it wasn't really pro. It was like you had 17 letters. It's a WHWL, whatever, PHL. It's like the more letters you have, the less successful or less good of a pro league it is, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and if you're playing in populations that hold 2,500 fans, it's not like a big pro league. Anyway, I'm not cutting that up.
No, it's like just the sharp. It's like if you're gonna have a life as a professional hockey player, like if you're gonna make your living playing hockey, that's kind of the dividing line, right? So it's like if you can make a living, you think that you're gonna grow up on this as your salary, that you're gonna have a wife and kids and a house and all that with.
Yeah,
that's kind of what pro means to me. Like if you can afford to do that based on the league you're playing in, that's kind of being a pro player.
Yeah.
So just with that kind of that outline to assist you, because I think the same thing. It's like if you're what you call pro is like, yeah, but like, are you gonna have a life ever? Because you still have to get a job, So it's like, what kind of life do you want to have?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think for some of the guys that you're talking about that are all that upper echelon, where it's like they want to move up to the higher leagues in Europe, where they can actually make some decent money or whatever. It's like, that's one thing, but it's another thing to say, I'm going to go through the U Sports route to play pro. Like, what's the goal? Like, what are we trying to do here? Like, what's the end goal kind of thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing is God, it's so hard for me to say this, but the bottom line is that I've seen a lot of players. One that works with us right now plays pro in Italy. He was a first round OHLer. He was drafted in the NHL. He's a really good hockey player. He's really good. Scored a lot of goals in the OHL, and had a hard time just getting to Europe. Fortunately, he's Italian, and he had he's a, what do you call it? Non-import resident.
Yeah, he's a citizen. Yeah.
So it's like he gets a spot, but like if you're me, right? Like I had an offer to go play in Switzerland, but I don't have any European connection, so I have to be a true import. So it makes it harder. So if you're, my bottom line is that like at any level, honestly, it's really hard. It's really hard. So if you can't figure out your game to get to a high pro level, to make yourself different and stand out, then it's just always going to be really, really hard to do. And there's a point where you have to just look at your game. And I'm not being negative to this person, because I actually hope you can figure it out.
Yep.
But if you can't figure it out, then because the bottom line is like the game is so fast now, the younger you are, the better. So if you're trying to make pro at 25, 26, 27, it's kind of behind you. for the most part, right? For the most part, you're not getting probably a whole lot quicker. It is your prime. So if you haven't made it by then, it's probably just logically probably a better idea to look somewhere else for work. And I don't mean that as a jerk. It's just, and I'm not saying give up on your dream. I'm not saying that, but it's like at some point you have to be realistic about your life. And it's if you haven't done it at 25 to 27 years old, it's probably you're not at the high level. Hockey's gone, most likely, unless you can go after university, 26 years old, and play in the East Coast and score 50 or get 300 penalty minutes a year, and people open up their eyes and you get opportunity. But that's you got to be willing to get that.
Yeah.
But like here's the bottom line. Can I be honest with you? You know. Like when I looked at my life, when I was finishing it up, I was sitting there going, okay, I want this. I'm 5'9.5". It's a jungle. I actually, to be honest with you, I don't want to, and I think I have it in me to go and bust my nose. Because that's what it would take. It would take me go busting my nose to get to the net every game. Take a two-hander across the chops every game. I didn't have it in me, and I didn't want to. So I could have went. So I had my offer in Europe and stuff like that, and it's like, cool, that was good. But at the end of the day, I knew where I was at. I knew that as good as I wasn't good enough to make Brendan Shanahan money, obviously, right? Or to make the $1 million a year. I just at that point in my life, I knew. So we disguise what we know in lies, right? We disguise it in all kinds of different lies, like someone screwed me. The opportunities were there, or all the lies come, or we pretend that we are really, really trying, but if you have it in you. And the bottom line is that if you aren't willing, especially when you're not a superstar, if you're not willing to get up every day and have a burr up your ass and ready to eat raw steak and with nails in it every day and go through a freaking grind and work your balls off harder than actually harder than anybody else with enough skill to maintain it, you're not going to make it. Right? So there's a truth that we all know. We know if we're good enough. And you can just look on your team, the team that you just played for, right? You know exactly where you are. And if you don't, you should. So if you know that if you honestly look in the mirror and you go, I'm working as hard as I can, I actually am, and I'm mucking it out for a third line, second power play, and I'm 20 years old. Guess what? It's probably not a real thing. And that's not being a goof.
That's great. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring up too, because it's that endless chase thing that happens with so many hockey players. And the reason I wanted to, you took it exactly where I wanted you to too, which is great, because it's like, you go chase it for another 7, because it was the same thing. Exactly what you said about you. That's what I said about to myself as well. It was like, I was in my last year at the university, and it was like, okay, am I going to take that road? It's like, I don't want to, you don't want to miss, there's other things you could do with your life,
Yeah.
There's other opportunities, and in hockey too. Yep. That's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's other opportunities that you can get and explore and go after in hockey, where you can still be attached to the game. You can still follow your passion and you make a lateral move into something that's in the same world, but a little bit different, without going through the 5 to 7 year grind of kicking the shit out of yourself for what? For what? And that was the same exact conversation I had with myself that you were talking about, that you had when you finished playing. It was going into my last year already I might stop, and then it was my last year happened, and I was like, why? What are we doing here? What is going to happen? Best case scenario, if everything goes perfect, how high am I going to get? How far am I going to go?